Hey everyone, this is Zach with 8020 Automotive, here today with a video on signs and symptoms of a faulty wheel speed sensor. Modern vehicles, especially those equipped with anti-lock braking systems, actually use 4 wheel speed sensors, one on each wheel for the vehicle. These sensors read information back to the ABS control module and are an incredibly important part of operation for not only ABS, but also other safety systems such as traction control and stability control systems. So ultimately, these wheel speed sensors are very important for reading the speed of each wheel, sending that data back to the ABS module, and the vehicle can then use that data to appropriately engage the anti-lock braking system, traction control, stability control, etc. when the vehicle detects that those systems may be needed. Now, when you have a faulty wheel speed sensor, the proper data won't be making it back to the control modules, and that can ultimately shut these systems down and prevent proper operation. So that can be very dangerous, especially for anyone who may not be familiar driving vehicles without anti-lock braking systems or without traction or stability control systems. So this is a very important safety function on modern vehicles, and one that shouldn't be overlooked. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump in and discuss some of the most common symptoms of a bad wheel speed sensor. Number 1 on the list, we have an illuminated ABS warning light. As I kind of mentioned at the start of this video, when the wheel speed sensor is faulty, it's not sending proper data back to the ABS, and ultimately that means that this system won't have the proper data to engage should the system be needed, and a lot of the times that will cause the ABS to completely shut down. That will in turn trigger the ABS light to let you know that the system might not be functioning properly. So that's really going to be one of the biggest symptoms. Moving on to the second symptom, we have traction control and stability control lights. Much like with the ABS system, if you have an issue with the wheel speed sensor, that's going to cause the traction control and stability control systems, depending on what you may have on your vehicle, to not function as required. And that's ultimately going to lead the vehicle to shutting those systems down. When traction control is disengaged, you will often see a light. It depends on the model. You may see traction control, it may shorten it to simply TC, or a lot of the times you'll see a little symbol with what looks like a vehicle sliding on the road, or potentially a symbol that looks like a spinning wheel with a little arrow rotating around it indicating wheel spin. A lot of the times it's those lights that are associated with your traction and or stability control systems. So if you're seeing any kind of light like that or any kind of notification on your vehicle indicating that the traction or stability control systems are turned off, that can all be due to a faulty wheel speed sensor that is causing these symptoms to not have the data required, and as such the vehicle will simply shut them down rather than trying to run them with bad data and incorrect wheel speeds. Moving on to the third and final common symptom for a bad wheel speed sensor, we have speedometer problems. Now, this is incredibly rare. There are very, very few vehicles that actually read speed from one individual wheel speed sensor. Again, there are 4 sensors in these modern vehicles, and so even if the vehicle was wired and intended to read speed from the wheel speed sensors, a lot of the times it's only one sensor that fails. And in that case, the PCM or the computer would essentially be able to determine the correct speed upon noticing that 3 speeds are indicated the same from the 3 good wheel speed sensors, and then it's getting 1 no reading or 1 faulty incorrect reading from a 4th wheel speed sensor. So again, even if the vehicle is designed that way to display the speedometer speed that way, a lot of the times this shouldn't trigger any actual issues with your speed reading on the speedometer. Just something to point out because it is possible. Again, it's just very rare and very few vehicles are actually set up that way. Now, ultimately, those are really the only common signs and symptoms of a bad wheel speed sensor. If you check the fault codes of the vehicle, you'll also get the associated fault codes indicating an issue with the vehicle's wheel speed sensor, and that can help point you in the right direction and figure out which sensor is actually having having the issues. But outside of that, there really aren't any symptoms, and this really shouldn't affect overall drivability of the vehicle, for the most part for normal standard driving situations, and won't affect long-term reliability. It's not something that will require you to pull over or have the vehicle towed to a shop. However, I do want to point out this is an incredibly important thing to get fixed as soon as possible, because these systems are very important for vehicle safety. Should you end up in some sort of emergency braking situation, or you're potentially driving on icy roads where traction control can be very helpful, number of different situations where you can be putting yourself and others in danger driving without ABS, traction control, stability control systems, etc. And the fact of the matter is, even though a lot of these systems have only been mandated in the last roughly 10 to 15 years, most vehicles from the 1990s onwards have been equipped with systems like ABS, traction control. So a lot of us nowadays aren't all that experienced in driving a vehicle without an anti-lock braking system and without these traction and stability control systems. So it can be an adjustment if you again end up in an emergency situation in a moment where normally you would have these systems there to help you and help handle the vehicle. You won't have these with a faulty wheel speed sensor. So again, for safety reasons, still important to get this issue fixed as soon as possible. Get yourself home, drive carefully, and then get the issue fixed as soon as possible. Anyway, guys, that wraps up this video for today. If you appreciated the content, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more in the future. Thanks, everyone.